With the Utgardian gods threatening all of Midgard and everything else in between, it'll be up to King Thor to stop them, but he can't do it on his own. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Immortal Thor issue number 4 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, as we rejoin the story in progress, we are once again reintroduced to Toranos, the elder god of storms, the first of the Thunderers, and the guy who was currently hell-bent on destroying Thor, Earth, and anything else that gets in his way once he makes it back from the other end of the universe. This guy is coming on fast, so fast in fact that word has actually reached the ears of Beta Ray Bill, who has come to Asgard to try and render his services. If you'll remember at the end of the excellent Beta Ray Bill miniseries, there was still actually a fair amount of bad blood between Bill and Thor over the destruction of his hammer and his general treatment by the rest of the Asgardians, but shit's so serious now he's come back to help. He also maybe even tries to rekindle his romance with Sif, which, you know, it is just always kinda sweet to see now, isn't it? Of course, it's not Bill who's currently in King Thor's sights right now. That honor goes to Storm, Aurora Monroe. If you've been reading the X-Men family of books, and I know you have, you'll know things have been absolutely crazy with Storm right now. She's leading a mutant colony on Mars, which has also just so happened to explode into civil war at the moment. She's also basically a queen and kind of a god after the fact unto herself right now, so you can imagine how pissed off she is when Thor opens up a portal and spirits her away to the moon. As Storm so eloquently puts it to Thor in a very no-nonsense way, anything you could possibly want my help with right now pales in comparison to everything that's going on with mutant kind at the moment, and I mean, hey, Al Ewing would know because he's writing X-Men Red. Try though he might to try and warn Storm about the coming threat of the Utgardians and Toranos, all he can really do is end up putting his foot in his mouth. So much to the point Aurora calls down a full-on thunderbolt just to try and get the king off her back. Here's the thing though, Thor is a master of the lightning and he just kind of asks it nicely to stop, before even going as far as to drop this hilarious little nugget when he says, hey, Storm, look, the lightning loves us both equally now, let's not try and make it choose or anything, that could be awkward. Not that Storm ever needed lightning to kick Thor's ass, as she is able to actually manipulate the pressure in the very air itself to start crushing Thor like he was a grate between two big fingers. And yes, we are on a special gray part of the moon where that is actually scientifically possible. Don't worry, Al Ewing thought about that sort of thing. It's at this point King Thor basically throws up his hands and says, you know what, screw it, I guess we're in one of these stories now, right? You know, one of those stories where heroes pull out their dicks and measure who's stronger. Yeah, apparently this is a pretty common thing in the superhero community and not just something power scalers in the fan community do. But of course, Thor is always one to rip up the scripts in situations like this, and as such, when he sends Mjolnir hurling towards Storm, he does so knowing full well that she'll eventually pick it up, and in doing so, and also being pure of heart, Aurora Monroe transforms into a Thor in her own right. Because, well, this was always the sort of super backup King Thor was going to need if he was ever hoping to defeat Taurinus, and it's at that very moment the Utgardian giant ends up showing up, meaning that he doesn't really need to explain anything to Storm. She pretty much figures that if they don't get involved and now, Earth will be destroyed, and probably Arakko not long after. But wait, we're not done yet either, as it's at that very moment a portal ends up opening up with Loki and Beta Ray Bill showing up to further help reinforce the king. Bill steps in and heroically tries to take a hit for Loki, and in doing so ends up touching Mjolnir himself and transforming once more. This is actually kind of a big moment for Beta Ray Bill if you've been paying attention, because he lost his own special hammer like several events ago. And hey, speaking of old events that you may very well have forgotten, Loki ends up touching the hammer at the same time and also becoming a Thor, something that actually happened all the way back in the events of Axis when Loki had their morality inversed. You might be thinking to yourself, well, how the hell is this possible for there to be so many Thors running around at once? Well, if you recall, the hammer itself was only ever a conduit for Odin's old magic that is now Thor's. And unlike his famously stingy father, Thor is more than happy to share the love with everyone else around him, his closest friends and allies, including Jane Foster the Valkyrie, who returns in just enough time to become the goddess of thunder once again. Meaning, as the comic comes to an end, we're setting up a huge, massive battle between the oldest god of thunder and the newest incarnation of the Thor Corps. Now that's pretty damn huge and pretty damn crazy, but guess what? Al Ewing has something ready for an encore too. You see, it's from there we transition on over to Dario Agger, aka the Minotaur, who, if you'll remember, had seemingly died in the pages of Al Ewing's own Immortal Hulk book, only now he's alive, but not well, and planning planning his next attack. What did he do? Oh, he just bought Marvel Comics. Oh yeah, some of you don't know that Marvel Comics actually exists within the pages of Marvel stories, but it does. And now one of Thor's greatest foes owns them all lock, stock, and barrel. And so that was Immortal Thor issue number 4, everybody, and I gotta say Al Ewing really is taking us on one hell of a ride. Not only was this a cool action-packed story with a lot of great fight scenes in it, but also some truly wonderful continuity and deep cuts, not just to stories that happen, but also what-ifs and such. This is why I love Ewing so much as a writer. Not only does he bring so many of his own great ideas, but he's also not afraid to build on great stuff that came before, like that Beta Ray build mini, which was excellent, and you should all read it if you didn't. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one an 8.5 out of 10. This Immortal Thor series kind of had a slower start than some of Ewing's other work, but now that the ball is really rolling, I'm really invested to see what happens next. Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.